Now once you put the button assembly back in with all the LEDs and everything, do not make the mistake and put the keys in. I'm going to show you a little demonstration about that that's going to blow your mind. Anyway, you have to put the electronics back in. Now, as you can see here, with the electronics, I have them still connected to another board. So if I pull this whole board up, which is not safe to do, everything's still connected. The reason of that is because right in the back here, everything is nothing but tiny little pins. So if you put those pins on backwards, your keyboard could short out. Everything is little pins right here. Now the new Yamaha keyboards, they don't have that. All you have to do is basically to have the little pins, but they have the little connector that you could just snap right back on. Now over here, I still have the main board, which this is the motherboard of the keyboard. That goes in first. So when you put that in first, I'm going to show you exactly how to do it. You have to do it very carefully. Here we go. Now on your PSR-500, 500M, 400, or 85, remember where on this board that the pitch bend, you only have one pitch bend wheel, and you don't have a modulation wheel on here, that goes to your left. So everything is flip-flop. You stick that on, and then all your other electronics right here, you have to stick in. I have paper towel here because I try to prevent the static that is on these boards. Okay, so the first thing is the main board that is right over here. I'm going to have to lift that up to get all the other boards in. So what I do is, this is your LED board. I'm going to have to stick that in. And it'll just stay right there. Then, put your main contact board right in the slots where the holes are. You got to make sure also that no wires are underneath it, or else you're not going to get a contact signal. Okay, so next is putting this board in, which is your rhythm control. That goes in just like that. This board here, this is going to be your contact board for your keys. You cannot put that in yet, and that's the other reason why I'm going to show you with the not to assemble the keys first. This is your multi-pad. You just stick that in right there. Okay, and also your main board. Well, before your main board, you have your volume control right here. So you have to put that in. And that goes right underneath. And then your main board. Okay, now what I have to show you is that for your bags of screws and all your other brackets and nuts and everything like that, you're gonna need that right now. Now, only thing that you need is a Phillips screwdriver for this. These are your brackets for your keyboard. So when you install your keyboard in, you have to install these brackets in first. Now, the black screw right over here, that one is for the back of the keyboard. So when you put the back panel, or as I say, when you put the bottom panel back onto your keyboard, you're going to be using only black screws. This one over here, this is for your speakers. So you have two speakers, and it's a set of 4 of these screws right over here. Now this little guy right over here, this is for your main board. So it's very easy of size and color coding of how you're going to assemble this keyboard. Now I'm going to show you exactly how right now. Now what you want to do is all the outside boards, that's the one that you want to put in first. So you take those little screws that I told you about, and then you just put it in there. After you do that, you want to do the inside boards. The reason that you don't want to do the inside boards for now is because the main board right here, there's chips underneath it. So outside boards first, inside boards next, and then the main board. Now this over here, this is for your key assembly. We'll get to that later. This is the last thing that you want to do for the inside of the keyboard. Okay, so now I installed the front part of the circuit boards and also the back part of the circuit boards. Now one thing that I forgot to tell you is that with any of the circuit boards, let me show you on a green one. Anything with a white ring around where you're supposed to put the screws in, that's only for these panels. Do not put the screw in if it doesn't have a white ring, just like this, because that's dealing with the bottom panel of the keyboard. So when you put the bottom panel back in with the keyboard, you might hit something that is basically not supposed to be having a screw there. So anything with a white ring, put a screw. Anything without it, you have to wait until the back panel, or say the bottom panel of the keyboard is installed. Now, this is the main circuit board. I am going to install this back into the keyboard. And also, once you install the keys, that goes right on top of the keyboard assembly. And that I'm going to show you a little bit later on in this video. You have, right over here, this is your main circuit board. So, it's connected to the other board, so you don't actually want to pull it apart because you might do some damage right there. You got your MIDI jacks right over here. And also you have your headphone and your sustain pedal jack, and also your power jack. Now, everything on the bottom of this main board you do not want to touch. So you basically want to touch the sides where there's not a part sticking out. So when I install it in, another thing about it is that you see the back of the panel of the keyboard itself has those holes located in, so you cannot make a mistake at all. So when you install it in, you basically have to lift up the end of the keyboard, not pulling it. I would say lift up the end of the motherboard, I'm sorry, not pulling it, and also then it just snaps right in. Just like that. It's already in there. So now you have all your connections hooked in. Now once you put back all those screws in, this is basically what your keyboard should look like. Now as you can see, I laid out the keyboard right on a stand because I want to test it out. You know, you have to test out your connections before you put in the keys and the back panel. And those are the last parts that's going to be on the keyboard. So what I did is that I took a contact. Now this contact is from the last key of the keyboard, right here. So that's going to be basically the last C on the keyboard. You see that one contact is up a little bit higher than the other one. So the highest one goes up and the lowest one goes down. You place it on anywhere where the key is supposed to be at. Next, I'm using my power jack, and also I'm using my patch cable. You want to make sure that the patch cable is live. That's if you take off the speakers. If you don't take off the speakers, you don't have to make sure the power jack is live, or you don't have to even use one at all. So I hook it up, I turn it on, and then I press both contacts on the board to make sure that a key is actually working. Next thing you want to do is you want to test out all of these buttons to make sure if they work. So if the demo works,
4, 3, 2.
Or the multi-pads work, then you're basically set. But check out every single one of these connections, or say every single one of these buttons. Now, if one of your buttons are not working, that means that your connections that you hooked up for that board might be switched flip-flop. So just switch them back and they should work.